Here we are next to Forest Farm, building a recycled barn for a gentleman out of recycled materials. Now you've got to understand, simply recycled. This timber may look new to you, but it's what the builder's merchant doesn't want. The condition is not good enough to sell. Here is old timbers, old roof timbers, and then we go over. Now what we are using is new materials for the underbase, e.g. the stone, but everything above has got to be recycled, literally everything. Making a mound here. And there's Mickey. Clearing up the ground. And this is where the new barn is going to go. So we're going to put the new barn just here. Yeah? All out of old electric poles, old roof sheeting. Everything's got to be old, recycled for reuse. And there is Mickey the driver, very happy today. And look at all these roots and all this rubbish. But eventually, perfecto. So we're taking it right the way down to the ground, but not too far, because otherwise it's too much stone. And then we're going to blind this with stone and track it heavily. Some of the stones here are too large in which to take out, because basically the cubic capacity is too much, and it also strains and breaks the machine. Some of the stones that have already come out are huge enough as it is, some of them weighing up to 3.5 tons. So coming back to the site, we're leveling out now the stuff next to the site. We've got more stone in. Let's go and have a look at what's going on. So here is the man here. He's putting in himself a new willow bank, especially in the way of he's doing it by scraping the bottom. Look at him. Look, he's quite good looking. Hello. Hi. He's quite good looking. Hi. And he's making a willow bank here, which this morning he had not even started to dream about. But here, now, halfway through the day, and the man's doing the job. We go down. The stone is being put in. So this is telegraph poles, electric poles, which are the waste. Fundamentally, these have to be environmentally destroyed. But they make the most perfect, one, stakes to put in the ground or fencing. And also they make absolutely brilliant pole barn. So at the moment today, we are building a pole barn from totally recycled material at the top. The bottom, of course, gravel isn't recycled. So this is the beginning of the pole barn. One day, and it will be up. I'll show you as it progresses. So yeah, this is the boss. He's from Belgium, speaks 5 languages, just starting on his 6th. But he's wanting to live an off-grid life here in the Swedish countryside. Recycling is what he wants to do, and I agree with him. So whatever it is, whether it's the timber from the forest, don't matter what it is, he's here and he's making a life for himself. And here are some local people as well who are doing the same. Want to live a life off-grid in the middle of nowhere. This mound you see here is now being done as a willow bed. Many willow plants. Morning neighbours, yeah? And there's some of the willow plants, as you can see, being planted on an area where this soil has come from underneath where the barn is. the young willows. And over there's going to be a garden to produce everything he needs for the whole year. Well, here we are going up, cutting these off level, maybe about the same as the others. Well, pole barn is slowly going up. Been on it about 6 hours now. Yeah, about 6 hours I would say. You gotta have somewhere where you store stuff. You're trying to live off grid, depending how you're trying to live and how many people you've got to support. You still got to understand, you've got to have somewhere to store stuff. This place will soon become a dream, and he bought it for 40,000 euros. Local friends and neighbours, everyone here is trying to help make sure that things go as smoothly as possible. Get this barn up as a construction. But this man and his wife are on and on and on for his life. Completely off grid, so he hopes. So all the telegraph poles that came this morning, 27 of them, now got down to 4. Cut-offs, which are going to be used as fence posts within the fields for the sheep. All this soil now, about 300 tons moved. But the basis of the pole barn, used out of old telegraph and electric poles, is up. And remembering that everything here almost will be recycled. It's there, it's running, and the nice thing about it, we tried to put the van in and there was still 600-700 above it, so it all works. And you've got to understand that this is one day of off-grid living by using friends and family in the area, just people who want to come along and have fun and to help. One single man's dream. Well, it's early Sunday morning and everything is quiet. Today it's Easter. Soon the willow bed will be leafing, and I hope within a couple of days we get the roof on this building. But at least it's up, and that is the main thing. And actually looking really quite good. The machine they've had for a couple of days, yeah, it's quite high expense, but what it's achieved in that time means that this gentleman and his partner can get on and get ready for the summer, because what this machine does in a couple of hours would take them 4 or 5 months. So we've moved the compost, which is the old compost from the horses that used to be here, now across from one side of the road to this side of the road, which is where they're going to make their vegetable beds and gardens. We've stripped the vegetation off the topsoil, and now they're going to chip all of the trees that they're taking down, which is to make the land good for their animals, and chip all of the timber and put it onto here in between the beds. This is about almost 100 tons of compost as I say, from the horses. Now he's started to cut the trees he doesn't want from the land, and they are going to be used for chipping, leaving the land so that it is clear of vegetation not required, so that this land can then be used for the sheep and other animals that this gentleman is going to have here on his off-grid, self-sufficient lifestyle. This is the pond the woody trees are in. And here's him cutting many of these trees down, in which, as I say, will be used for chipping. The pond is now starting to get water, and this pond is soon going to be available for the ducks. I'll take you around, show you the old house. Well, here we are, remembering that 50, 60 years ago there was probably a family living here. Now it's for the squirrels, the animals, and a completely, absolutely derelict. In amongst this old ruin, of course, you get the badgers and the foxes and many other animals use this space now that the humans no longer live there. I found a fox den here in amongst the timbers. This house was entirely constructed from the forest around, and it has an air and beauty and feeling. But once family was here, once births, children, dogs and cats running around. But of course, when it was operating, there was no such thing as running water in the house or electricity. You were in the forest and you had to survive. The modern day bus service, trains, internet, the list is endless, was something that just wasn't there. And this land has laid bare for many, many years. But there's no reason why everybody that wants to can get out into many countries of the world and buy themselves a little house in the middle of nowhere, change the systems in the house from electricity to solar panels, you get your water from the well, and you can really live completely off grid. Not totally, but almost entirely. Here, another old building. Incredibly beautiful. So as I say to everybody, there is a life out there for you. You can easily make yourself a life in the forests of this world and enjoy your life without having to listen to the crap and the shit that the modern world and media bring to you through the doorstep every day. After all, just for a little bit of work every week, enough to pay if you want to have a car and the odd little treats, but most of what you actually have you can grow on a very small piece of land. 2-3 hectares is enough to substantiate an entire family. Recycled materials, there are so many. Everybody is chucking things away, whether it's sofas, timbers, doors, windows. It doesn't matter. Pick it up, take it back, and make yourself a life. Because after all, every life is special. But if you're not having to work and pay and work and pay and work and pay every day, just imagine what life you and your family can have. I know, because I live in the middle of nowhere. I have no neighbours. I have just my land, my animals, my home, and the forest around me. And after all, these days you walk into a city, you pay hundreds of thousands of euros for a flat. On top of that, you pay your maintenance costs and all the bills. And at the end of the month, when you hold your paycheck and realize how much of that paycheck is for me and my family, you're lucky if 10% of it, after you've paid all your bills and all your problems, is yours. Live off grid in the middle of the forest, and if you decide to work, 80–90% of your paycheck at the end of the month is yours to enjoy. Well, here we are at the pole barn. Yo! This one's got a nice piece of rot in it, which is a little bit of beauty. Even though it's rotten, we're still going to use it. One of the men here who is doing it, and these are people that live locally and have decided to get this job done here at the pole barn, right? And to make sure that this construction finishes. Second-hand timbers. Look at the rot. Look how beautifully rotten that is. Yeah. And here we've got sheets that came off a local school. Yeah, the school had to have new sheets put on it, and the old sheets being reused. Well, many neighbours have come to see what's happening here. The pole timbers slowly being chopped up. Second-hand timber, stuff with the nails in them. And the shed is now taking place, or shall I say pole barn. Yeah. Again, you've got to understand, we're using timber that aren't exactly the most special timbers in the world, but when they are up, they may be a little bit not like you would want to use. But you've got to understand, this is a recycled job as best as possible. They may have a lot of nails in them. They may be slightly on the wearing side, but this is a second-hand pole barn using second-hand materials. Now 8 men on site. Well, you can see how that pole barn's going on now. It's not exactly 100% square, and the steelwork is overlapping, so that's got to be cut off straight from one end to the other, right the way down. Remember, this is using second hand. You can see how huge it is, and we're putting in a second floor as well. So in here there is a second floor going in right the way through, so that you can put timber up into the top, everything you need upstairs, right? But you can see how much work is involved in this. Virtually none of it is new material. There's a little bit of new material, but almost all is second-hand material all the way through. And when you get inside this pole barn now, you feel the grandeur of the size. Remember, this is big inside here, right? For cattle or some sheep, or for storage of every sort. Yeah. And it's a very good quality. Yes, you say it's slightly out of shape, but actually when it's finished and it's roofed, you would find it hard to see that it's out of shape. And we've had a lot of people from the community who have come here today to lend a hand. They've literally come along and with their saws and their bits and said, can we help? This is the sort of community you need to live in. We leave our tools on the ground and we may come back in a week, but they will still be there when we come back. This is not a thieving society. This is a great society. Anyway, I'll show you how we get on when we do the next part. The sheets are on, the roof is on, and it's only the sides to build now. I'm going to take you up the ladder just to show you. We put the waste in one area for recycling, yeah, and then I take you up to show you, but it's a nice roof. It's a nice building. And of course, the beauty about this is it's total recycling. And of course, the neighbors were the ones that built it. They just come along and build the barn out of the fun of it. Those sheets are from a school. The poles come from the electric, which is now going underground. And the old timbers come from many other sources. The only thing that's actually new is the felt underneath the timber itself, as underneath the roof itself. So there we go. There it is. Roof is on. Timbers at the back here going to be used to put another floor into it. The gravel, obviously, we had to purchase new. The old timbers that are left over are going to be used on the farm. And it's absolutely fantastic. Just simple poles put together, and once the cladding has been put around the outside, all this second-hand cladding from a local school, the barn is totally finished. The electric pipe, which is an old pipe picked up, it's been dug out the ground, goes up to take the electrics, and that's it. A simple pole barn, but believe it or not, this is over 100 square meters of space, and will soon have a floor at the top, which is another 50 square meters. 150 square meters out of second-hand materials costing virtually nothing. So next time you think, oh well, I need a new barn and I pay 30, 40, 50,000 euros, think again. After all, invite the neighbors over, cook some nice food, and get the job done as a community. A simple pole barn, simply constructed with a smile. Well, we're now finishing off the pole barn that we started earlier on in the year. The sheets of metal are now on the sides and the roof, and the first windows have gone in, giving the light. You can see the rust on these panels, but they will last a very long time. If I go around the back, all the panels are up, and it actually looks pretty damn good. I'm now going to put some gravel on the floor here all the way around to make a path. But this is absolute watertight. And of course, the size of it, this is here, is to shoot off all the ice and the snow, so you don't have to put a gutter. And then we go inside where we're making a second floor, again out of total recycled material, literally. And there is the old timbers, beautiful. And this is an old staircase. Which was found in the river. It's a bit dodgy, but it works. And go up, and a total second floor and recycled material. So a simple pole barn made out of other people's waste. The windows were out of a school. The black sheeting was from a school. The poles all over the countryside being taken down, and the waste timber was ready to be chopped up for firewood because it was no longer, should I say, appropriate to sell. And then a large garage door on what is fundamentally an absolutely beautiful pole barn.